Welcome everyone, and thank you for attending. At the fair, we want to be able to provide you with as many resources as possible that could help you receive the types of supports that you're looking for. And today we have some experts on employment supports, and I'd just like to introduce them and thank them for taking the time to come down out of their busy schedule to be able to present to you. And a lot of the individuals also have some booths at the display tables where you can ask them further questions if you're interested. So one of our presenters is from ODEN, and ODEN stands for the Ontario Disability Employment Network, and presenting on behalf of ODEN is Ingrid Mushta, professional engineer and diversity and inclusion specialist. As a diversity and inclusion specialist with ODEN, Ingrid works promoting the business case for hiring people with disabilities. Ingrid is a passionate advocate for people with disabilities. She has held positions in the board of directors for the Down Syndrome Association of Hamilton since 2013, assisting them in reaching some impressive goals. Ingrid's vision for her son, born with Down syndrome, is clear: that he will grow up in a society where people with disabilities participate in higher education, that he will be engaged in equal and meaningful employment, that he will access and contribute to decision-making processes impacting his life, and he will be recognized as a vibrant contributor to his community. We also have Woodgreen presenting today, and presenting for Woodgreen is Moshumi Kader. Moshumi is an employment advisor with Woodgreen Community Services. She has over 10 years experience in employment counseling and job development with Employment Ontario, and has strong understanding of its programs and strategies. She has been delivering culturally sensitive and customized employment and career counseling with individuals and groups, including newcomers, internationally trained professionals, people with disabilities, and multi-barriers to help them with achieving their employment, career, and educational goals. She has a bachelor and master's degree in sociology, and also has a diploma in international business management and certification on mental health case management in Canada. She is a certified career development practitioner under Career Development Practitioner Certification Board of Ontario. And then we also have JVS Toronto, and JVS has evolved into a broad-based community organization recognized for helping people of diverse backgrounds to meet their educational and employment goals by providing career exploration, job search support, employment recruitment, mentoring, job coaching and retention, as well as psychological, educational, and vocational assessments and treatment services. And Greg Vessel-Chioti, an employment counselor with the Path to Work program, will be presenting today on behalf of JVS. And in his 10 years in employment counseling, he has had experience with supporting individuals with developmental disabilities, learning disabilities, and ADHD. We also have today with us ODSP. In addition to income supports, ODSP provides employment supports and services to help clients with disabilities find and keep a job and advance their careers. And then presenting on their behalf is Chris D'Souza and Michelle Signorelli. So again, thank you for the presenters, and I guess who will we have going first? ODSP, okay, thank you.
So myself and Chris are going to take turns doing half the presentation. So I'm going to do the first half, and Chris, my colleague, is going to do the other half for you guys. First, we're going to start off with kind of next. Let's just get to the next slide here. So myths about working on ODSP, supports that we can help get ready for work, how getting a job can increase your income, how ODSP can support you while you're working, and how to report earnings. And working is obviously your choice. You're not required to work while you're on ODSP, but it's something that if you would like to, we can always help you with. So myth number 1 is you're not allowed to work when you're on ODSP. Obviously, you're allowed to work when you're on ODSP, so you can if you want to. You don't have to if you can't. But a lot of people feel that they can't work when they're on ODSP, or they shouldn't. It's to your benefit to work because you get more increased earnings as opposed to not working and providing with just the amount that ODSP gives you. So you get to keep a lot more of your earnings now. So which we're going to get into. So obviously you can work, you can connect to services that will help you. We have service providers that we will connect you with in regards to your specific needs. Myth number 2, your income support goes down when you start working. So it's not worth it, but it's definitely worth it. So people who work while on ODSP are always better off financially than those who don't. Myth number 2, you lose your health benefits when you're on ODSP, like your dental and drug benefits. That's incorrect. You do not lose any of your benefits. Even if you come off ODSP, you may not lose them, and we'll get into that later on in the presentation as well. So if you do leave ODSP because of high earnings, you will continue to receive drug, dental, all of your benefits. You can also receive $500 in a 12-month period to help with the transition from being on ODSP to actually getting a job. So that's something that you can talk to a caseworker about, and we can provide you with those funds if you are coming off ODSP. If you are staying on ODSP, you can still receive your benefits based on the amount of money you're earning. Myth number 4, you can't get back on ODSP if you lose your job. So if you're on ODSP and you come off ODSP because you have high earnings, you can still come back onto ODSP. You don't have to go through the whole rigorous process that you would have gone to when you first applied for it, which is through the Disability Adjudication Unit. You can still come back on. It's an easy process. You can just talk to your caseworker, show us your financial standings, and if you're back under the asset limit, you can more than welcome come back on ODSP. So you can work while on ODSP. So if you haven't already done so, speak to your caseworker about your interest in working. There are a lot of different positions, a lot of different resources that we can help you with. We will connect you with a service provider to develop a plan to finding you a right job that fits for your disability needs. When you start working, you must report your income and discuss your expenses with your caseworker. So if you do have disability-related expenses, we can help you with that as well. And if every month, you do have to report them, but we're a month behind. So if, say, to instance, right now, caseworkers are putting in income for people for the previous month, which was for September. So here are some examples of the kinds of services you can get through ODSP Employment Support Service Providers and through ODSP. So helping prepare for work, help finding a job that is right for you, including starting a business, help keeping a job coaching, on-the-job training, and help move to the next level in your career. So you can, the service providers, based on what your disability is, they can definitely help you move into your career. If for some reason the service provider that you're working with doesn't work out for you, you can definitely change service providers as well. We can help you with that. You would just let us know. We can talk to the service provider, find out what the issues are, and if we can't resolve them, then we can terminate that and help you find another one. So with employment supports, we can also help address your disability-related needs. So if you have certain needs, and computer-wise, if you have a disability but you can't type or you can't speak into the computer or you can't do certain things, we can help you provide you with certain technologies up to a certain maximum amount that can help in regards to the job that you may need. So you can once again help with interpreter services, assistive devices, training, any of that stuff we can definitely help provide some money for, but we would just need to let us know what it is, how it would help you in your job, and then we can go from there. So employment-related supports. So other costs ODSP can help with is looking for like haircuts if you need specific clothing, childcare costs, safety boots, anything that is specific to the actual job that you need. So once you start working, you can receive up to $100 each month as a work-related benefit. So this is just kind of like a, here you go, thank you for working, here's $100 extra on top of the money that you're already getting. So this is just something we provide everybody who's working. Doesn't even matter the amount that you're getting, it's just something that we extra provide, stating thank you, you're working, here you go, here's some extra help. So how earnings affect ODSP income. So the first $200 of the money that you make is exempt. So you get to keep it, we don't deduct anything. After the first $200, we deduct 50%. So if you're making, like say $600, you get to keep the first $200, and so the $400 after that is deducted 50%. So that means you're keeping we're deducting 200 of the 400, plus you get the extra 100 back from the work-related benefit that we're giving you. So technically, we're only collecting $100 from that 600. So I'm going to pass on the rest of the presentation to Chris. We're going to go into specifics on how the calculation works, and he's just going to go into it and how it kind of affects you guys.
Thank you, everyone. So I'm just going to explain to you some calculations that we have based on the income or the earnings that you have. So, for example, if you earn $1,000 a month, the first 200 is exempt. That leaves you with a balance of $800. 50% of that is now taken into consideration, not the full 800. So only $400 is taken, and then if you have other expenses like child care expenses or disability-related expenses, that is taken into consideration and deducted also from that. So in this scenario, we don't have any costs related to that. So we have a total deduction of only $400 from the $1,000 that you had earned. So for example, if a client is receiving $1,151 in ODSP, $400 is deducted from that. $100 is given back to you as a work-related benefit, and your ODSP payment is now $851. So $851 you receive from ODSP, and your earnings, which is $1,000 per month, will total up to $1,851 as your earnings for the month. Now, if someone has a disability-related cost, so for example, if you have $300 a month that you have paid with reference to disability-related expenses, so for example, you have a certain equipment that you are paying for that you require in order to complete your work, that is deducted from the earnings that you have every month. So ODSP deducts that amount that you are paying, and then your ODSP amount is increased every month. So this is an example that those costs are taken into consideration every month from your ODSP related expenses. We have another example to give you from this. So for example, your net earnings is $500 a month. The flat rate of $200 is exempt from that, which leaves you with $300. 50% of that is $150. Now you have your disability-related expenses, $200 a month, which is deducted from that, which leaves you a total of $0. So you do not have any work-related expenses this month, because the $200 for the work for the disability-related is more than your earnings for the month. So you have $1,151 from ODSP minus your earnings, which is $0. And plus you get the $100 work-related benefits. So your total ODSP is $1,251 for the month, plus your earnings of $500, which leaves you with $1,751. Childcare costs. So as we explained to you earlier, your childcare cost is deducted from your work-related expenses. So for example, if someone works in the month and if they have childcare expenses, that is going to be deducted. So for example, you can claim up to $600 for unlicensed childcare. And so if you have, I think there's an example. So if you have $1,000 a month that you earn, first 200 is exempt. That leaves you with 800. 50% of that is 400. Your licensed childcare, you pay $250 a month. That is deducted from the balance of 400, which leaves you with $150. That is going to be deducted from your ODSP expense. Example, $1,574 that you receive from ODSP. Only $150 is deducted now from your ODSP money. But you receive $100 for work-related expenses. So it's only $50 that is deducted from your $1,574. So your ODSP payment is $1,224 a month. So a final calculation, or that what you'll receive every month is $1,524 from ODSP, and your net earnings, which is $1,000 a month, which gives you a total income of $2,524. So starting a business. If you're starting a business and your income is calculated and you're eligible to deduction business-related expenses. For example, eligible expenses are supplies, tools and equipment, bookkeeping, legal fees. So for example, if you have to buy certain equipment that you have in a month. So for example, books, and you have to buy a laptop, or you have to pay legal fees, or if you have advertising, if you want to advertise your business, all that is deducted from your business expenses. I think we have an example. Certain expenses are not taken into consideration, and that is if you're paying rent. And why? Is because ODSP pays most of your rent, or ODSP pays your rent. Your wages for your employees, if you have wages for your employees, that's not taken into consideration. Gifts and entertainment, those are not. So business losses and conferences, those are not taken into consideration. So here's an example that we have. Your gross business is $600 a month. Your eligible business expenses is $100. That's taken minus at the first expense. $500 is your net business income. So your net business income is $500 minus the flat rate of $200, which is the exemption, and 50% of $300 is $150. So only $150 is deducted from your $1,550, which you receive from ODSP. You also get the $100 work-related benefit, which gives you a total of $1,101 of ODSP payment. So our final calculation is ODSP payment of $1,101, your $500, which is your business-related expenses, and of course the business expenses is minus, which leaves you with a total of $1,601 of a monthly. So working in school. So if you're working in school, if you're working while you are schooling, you can earn up to, and you earn $130, ODSP will consider your earnings as a resources, and it will be decided. So you can also speak to your caseworker about this, because if you're working in a full-time, if you're full-time in school.
So this one's a bit particular. So OSAP works in a specific way. So when you're on OSAP and if you're working, so if you're working and you're in school, it's exempt. You can work, you can be in school, it's not a problem. But it happens that when you are, OSAP might, over the amount of $113, they will see that as an asset, and so they will adjust how much they are going to give you for your OSAP payments. So it's not a big deal, but it is something that you may want to talk to OSAP about and talk to your transportation costs, local transportation, child costs, that used to be something that we would take into consideration. We don't take that into consideration anymore. So right now, it doesn't matter if you receive transportation or housing costs or any of that stuff from OSAP, it's exempt. We won't, it doesn't really matter. Before, it wasn't exempt, so we would have to have you go back to OSAP, get OSAP reassessed, and kind of hand the information back into us. But now that doesn't happen anymore. So that's something that just happened in the past year. In most cases, OSAP will assess ODSP recipients for education costs only, but they may provide you with, housing, transportation. It really kind of depends on what you ask for on the application form. However, if you receive OSAP for living expenses, it is deducted dollar for dollar from ODSP income. That is the only thing that we will deduct because you are receiving money from us in regards to your rent. So because you are receiving rent from us, you can't receive rent from us and rent from OSAP at the same time. Everything else is exempt except for the living expenses. It's the only thing you have to, that you would have to make sure you tell them not to add into the calculation when they are calculating any OSAP payments. And then, just check with your caseworker in regards to any other further rules, but this is mainly it. Like, there isn't any other kind of surprises that you should come across. Just make sure that the living expenses aren't added into the OSAP application form. That's it.
So, on this slide, if you leave ODSP for work, so for example, if you have a full-time job and your earnings are now more than what you're going to receive from ODSP, no problem. If you have, for example, medical bills that you have, or medical prescription drugs that you have to purchase every month, no problem. You can still receive your health-related benefits, your dental, and your vision care. And if you have, so for example, if you have about $1,000 a month for the drugs that you have to purchase, you can still be entitled to drugs, dental, and vision care. You can, and if you need any further information and specifics, you can speak to your caseworker. But this is one example. What we like to tell you: you can still earn money or have a full-time job and receive ODSP. Reporting your earnings. So you can take your, so while reporting your earnings, you have to provide a copy of your pay stubs every month to your caseworker. You can either do that, or if you're unable to photocopy them or send them, you can complete the employment training report and fax it to your caseworker. And we will calculate your ODSP income based on your previous month's earnings that you have. So for example, in the month of October, we take into consideration your earnings that you have received in the month of September. So one thing that you have to keep in mind is there may be a delay in case you end an employment. So for example, if you have stopped working in the month of September and you do not have any earnings now in the month of October, you have to take into consideration that ODSP looks at the earnings that you had in the prior month, the previous month. So you may not receive any money early in the month of October because you're not working anymore, but at the end of October you will receive your ODSP payments that you normally receive at the end of the month, every month. And if you need for any further information, you can speak to your caseworker on how this is calculated and how your ODSP payments are paid every month. Sorry, excuse me. Okay, so the benefits of working with ODSP. So people with disability on ODSP do not have to take a part-time related activities. But if you do so, you will see your income has increased. So for example, if you have earnings every month, you will still receive your ODSP payments and you get the work-related benefits. So that's one good thing. Another thing is you get your dental coverage and you get your health-related coverage. So that means your prescription drugs are paid for. And if you need vision care, you also get vision care, which is covered by your health card. And another thing is you get to have social benefits. So that example is you get to mix around with people, you get to socialize with other people while working in a specific office. So, and the last slide is, if you need any more information, you can contact your ODSP caseworker. And any additional information is also available on the Ontario.ca social assistance website. And that's all we have for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris and Michelle. I forgot to mention earlier that once all the panel speakers are finished, we'll open up the floor for questions and answers. So who will be going up next? Ingrid?
Good afternoon, everybody. You're a quiet crowd. I am typically not used to this. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm mindful of the time, so I'll try to be very quick, and I'll dedicate most of my time to the videos because they'll speak much louder to what I can say to you today. If you don't know who ODEN is, the Ontario Disability Employment Network is a professional body of employment service providers, all in the business of helping people who have a disability find meaningful employment. We also work with the private sector. In my role as a diversity and inclusion specialist, I deal with a lot of businesses who are very, very hungry to hire talented people, and they're finding that in people with disabilities. So I think you'll be impressed by the videos, as I said, not by what I have to say. Sorry about that. So the gold standard for us in ODEN is inclusion, and inclusion in employment. And what does that mean? The key aspect for supported employment would be one person at a time. We're not interested in jobs that require people to be segregated. We want jobs that have people mingling about other co-workers. It is focused on abilities, not on deficits. As a parent to a child who has Down syndrome, that's what I mention to everybody that comes in contact with my son. Focus on his strengths, not on the deficits you may encounter. When you meet a person, what is the first thing they ask you? Maybe it's just me. But if I'm meeting somebody in a networking opportunity, people say, "Hi, what do you do? What's your job?" Why would we deny that to people who have a disability? Jobs promote social networks outside of what you're providing in your normal community. Employment is important. Yes. It creates social values. You identify by what you do and by what you bring to your community and those co-workers of yours. Those are opportunities that should not be denied to people who have disabilities. It increases the person's status, economic role in their community. Again, we go back to the same idea that when you first meet a person, they typically will ask you, "What is it that you do for a living?" What is the answer a person who has a disability will say? And financially, people are much better when they work and they're in control of their own money. And the one thing we often forget about is that we never stop learning. And when we are provided the opportunity for employment, that learning continues. So employment first is about presuming that everyone has the capabilities of being employable. That we should be trying to get everyone into the workforce regardless of their disability or how hard others think their supports will be needed. when you are receiving supports funded by provincial governments, and if you are going to a service provider, the first thing that they should be looking at is how to get you a job. What does the data show us? A study in the United States has recognized that the single most important factor for a young person's career or development into the workforce is having one single paid job while they're still in high school. So employment needs to be something you think about from very early on. Opportunities for co-op, opportunities for paid employment while you're still in high school are critical to the outcomes of employment later on. So we go back to the idea of what are the principles for employment first. It is presumed that you have capabilities and that you're bringing contributions to your workplace. It is about access to real jobs with real wages. If somebody else isn't getting paid for the job that you're doing as a volunteer, that is not a volunteer job. Working in a pizza place is not volunteering. Or volunteering at a pizza place is not volunteering. That should be a job, paid. And people with disabilities should work fully integrated in society, just like you and I. And I'll show you some examples in my videos, my famous videos. But how do we get here? We all need to have high expectations. Really, really high expectations. And I'll read this to you. This is from a CEO of an organization in the United States who happens to have a son who has Down syndrome. And she says, those who set the early expectations for people with disabilities, parents, school administrators, employers, and caregivers usually have the best intentions. Nevertheless, many unwillingly engage in the tyranny of low expectations, seeing deficits, not strengths, disability, not ability, and people with disability pick up on those things. They pick up on that message. When the world doesn't expect much of you, it's really hard for you to expect much of yourself. It is hard to believe in yourself when others don't. So I'm going to show you two videos. The first one is a young man having a co-op job, okay? The second one is him 2 years later. And we'll have a very brief conversation about that.
When it comes to putting away library books, Jaden Lake leaves others in the dust.
Jaden, can you do these ones too?
He's not just fast, he's accurate.
He's better than us at most of these tasks. He just knows exactly where everything goes. How does he do?
Jaden has autism. He was diagnosed when he was 2. Now 19, he volunteers at this school library in Edmonton. While he's nonverbal, he's an enthusiastic worker.
You like working in the library, Jaden?
Jaden also catalogs and labels and works with computers.
He could work in an office or a bank or, anywhere where there is numbers and organization.
He's excited to work. He's excited to keep working.
Jaden's father is Edmonton MP Mike Lake. He wants employers to give adults with autism a chance.
He wouldn't be able to do a job interview. That would be a challenge for him. So if he wanted to work in a library or a warehouse or somewhere where he would be able to use these skills, he would need somebody to help him. He would need somebody to communicate for him and explain what it is that he's good at.
Research shows adults with autism spectrum disorder are underemployed. An Ontario study revealed only 13% work full-time. Just 6% have part-time jobs. In Calgary, Garth Johnson wants to change that. His company connects businesses with adults with autism in software and website testing.
Dedication, commitment, focus. They will do this job again and again and again for a long time, a lot longer than we would do jobs, and still love it.
Advocates for people with autism say it's not about charity, it's about creating opportunities, and workplaces stand to benefit most of all. Janet Dirks, CTV News, Calgary.
So keep in mind what you have just seen. Now we're going to see him 2 years earlier.
Displays that very rarely get into the papers. We're going to introduce you now to just one of them. Mike Lake, Member of Parliament, conservative Member of Parliament, and his son Jaden. Now, Mike has been a champion of the cause to find a cure for autism. As you can tell, Jaden suffers from autism.
I'll explain actually here quickly.
Please go ahead, yeah.
A little explanation. I just mentioned that we had switched from taking a train, which we were going to take, to a plane when we decided to go on the show. And he is very tied to his schedule and likes to know exactly what's going on. So I made the mistake of mentioning that to you as we were starting the interview, and Jaden caught on and wants to hear a little bit more about it. So,
tell me something, Mike, about what it's like bringing up Jaden in your family and what that's meant to you.
In the interest of time, I'm going to stop it right here, but I think you get the message, right? What happened in there? What was the magic? If this Jaden would have shown up at a service provider, would he be considered a case for employment? Probably not. Probably would have been considered a case of bad behavior or behavior that you cannot control, and he would not be considered employable, right? But what happened here is the family had set high expectations. All the stakeholders that had a play in Jaden's life were brought out to the table. And employment after high school, or opportunities for employment, were high on the list of things that Jaden needed to have during his school years. High expectations. There's a couple of other things that are coming about. Why are we seeing so many businesses hungry for new talent, and particularly people with disabilities? One is the improvements in awareness. All of our kids are not integrated in school. Those kids that are peers of a person like my son will be the next leaders in the business community. They are growing up with people with disabilities and not see them as different from them, right? There's also the idea that more people with disabilities are within our communities. And the most important one that I like to call is the sibling effect. If you're the youngest sibling and have a disability, and you see your older siblings going off to college or going off to work, why are they allowed that opportunity and not them? And the next one, which is very important, is the labor shortage. We have a shortage of talent in Canada and in Ontario. The Canadian Board, the Conference Board of Canada has indicated that by the year 2020, there's a drop in GDP because there's not enough people to do the work we need. Close to $2 billion are on the line because we can't produce parts or produce services or give the things that need to get done. It's a real need for the business community. The Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses has already identified that in their business community, their biggest issue is labor. And they have identified that there's a drop of 34% in the number of people that have skilled labor and 13% in the number of people of unskilled credentials. So the need is there. Employment service providers, you will see them in the hall next to us. So I'm not going to spend too much time in here, but they provide those services that you need. Support in the employment allocation, pre-employment skills. Talk to them. Demand that they tell you what your son or daughter needs in order to get those skills that employers are looking for.
My name is John Orsini. I'm the service manager of Toyota Town.
My name is Tracy Medeiros. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Stevenson Hunt Insurance Brokers in London.
Brent Barr, the office manager here at Westmount Neighborhood Pet Clinic.
My name is Brad Duncan, and I'm the Chief of Police for the London Police Service.
Our mailroom is actually a viable part of our operation, and without somebody who takes it seriously and does a good job, we would have a lot of problems. Mail would be going to the wrong people or not meeting the timelines that we need to meet. I've been here now 7 years, and I can't remember one time when Heather's ever made a mistake. So I would say Heather performs her job exceptionally well.
Maddie has been an incredible member of our team, and actually, in fact, and I truly believe that she is a member of our team and has done incredible things for us. I saw passion in her eyes related to what we did here. When we interviewed her, it was clear this was something she absolutely wanted to do.
Kevin, being the social person that he is, has actually invited people into his own personal environment. And so he's really ingrained himself in the organization. And I think if you talk to any of our employees, 820 employees, there's more than one person named Kevin in this building. But if you mention Kevin, everybody will know what Kevin you're talking about.
He's a hard worker. He works so hard. And it's a busy facility, to take care of all the customers that we have and to get their cars washed and try to get them washed on time is very difficult. And it's nice to have someone like Robert here who's committed to doing a great job.
Heather works primarily in our mailroom, so she looks after all our mail that goes out to clients, all our mail that goes out to insurance companies, and to our third-party vendors. Heather also looks after some kitchen duties and is very much proud of the job she does. She does a really great job, and she's very friendly to everyone. And like I said, she's built a lot of great relationships here.
Cleaning our facility, we call it disease management because we're a veterinarian facility, and cleaning actually maintains and eliminates and sterilizes our facility. And so she does a couple of the jobs that are right around cleaning that are critical to the success of our facility. And once we sat down and had that explanation as to the impact of what she does to our facility, she recognized that a dog could get sick or a cat gets sick if she doesn't do what she needs to do absolutely right. So she's exceeded every one of our expectations. I really do believe that in the roles that she does and the job she does with our facility, she does them better because she does them with a passion that I honestly would find hard to believe I could get from anybody else.
Well, Kevin's position actually has evolved over the last number of years. So initially, we were looking for an opportunity for an individual to take care of our documents. Obviously, in the police service, there are a great deal of documents that we need to destroy. As that employment opportunity expanded, we realized that there were other skill sets that Kevin had that could be used in other areas. So not only was he handling documents that needed to be destroyed, we also had him now documents that needed to be collated and tabulated. And so he evolved into that position as well. There's been growth for Kevin and growth for the organization.
Robert's our car washer. He will wash all of our customer vehicles that come in for service. There's a lot of walking involved. So he's finding the vehicles, he's taking them through the car wash, he's making sure that the cars are in good condition before and after he takes them through, and then gets them into a delivery area for our customers. Robert has been very independent, and he's been doing that work himself, so it's freed up the time that we've had in the shop.
She's good to everyone. Like she doesn't discriminate against anyone, and she treats everyone equal. And because of that, I think that our staff have become more inclusive of people with differences. And people don't think twice about the fact that Heather is different than other people because we don't think of her as different. Heather's just part of our team. She does a great job. And I would say that the culture here has changed, having Heather within it.
We've been here 5 years. And so we're a new business. And when we brought Maddie on, we were new. We were 3 years old. We upped and hawed, and should we bring someone else on? And we thought, well, we need the role done. And so it was really a business decision. This hire was a hire. Had nothing to do with any disability. Had nothing to do with the challenge. It had everything to do with the fact that we had these roles that needed to be done. Being a young business, we took a risk, but it turned out to not be a risk at all. It was absolutely one of the best decisions we made.
One of the things that we wanted to look at was stability in that particular position. Definitely has been an asset having someone like Robert here with a disability. The job fits his skills. He works well, he works hard at his job. It's a plus having someone here that every day, always showing up every single day to work.
The stumbling block is, there's a number of them, hours of work. Does the employee become an employee? What are the issues around workplaces with unions and associations? And what I say is put all that aside. Is there a position, and are the skill sets that position requires available through Community Living London? Look at that first, and then work out the other details. And that's what we did. Oftentimes we think there are stumbling blocks to employment when there really aren't. And so first ask the question, do we need the individual? Does this individual fit? And then everything else will, quite frankly, fall into place.
The dream's still a dream. Kevin might have wanted to be a police officer, but he is not, but he works at a police station. So the dream's still a dream that should be fostered from very early on. We need to believe in people, we need to raise expectations, we need to have all the stakeholders involved in the same page, and we need to just get out there and provide opportunities for people. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
Hello, everybody. Okay. Hello, my name is Greg. I'm with JVS Toronto. JVS Toronto. Thanks. So JVS Toronto has been around for just over 70 years, working with youth and adults around education and work. What we do is, oh, thank you, okay. Is this better? Yes. Can I take this off? Yes, this is much better. Perfect. Okay, this is better. Okay, thank you. Okay, so so as I was saying, so JVS Toronto supports youth and adults around education as well as employment. We work with various different types of disabilities, which I'll be talking about. Also with respect to accommodations and disclosure, and employment supports, and next steps around employment. Okay, so as I said, it was founded just over 70 years ago. It's evolved into a broad-based community organization recognizing for helping people of diverse backgrounds to meet their educational and employment goals. And through responsive current employment training and our psychological services, we assist newcomers, youth, and people with disabilities, the underemployed and the unemployed to find work. Okay, so within the disabilities department, we're working with folks with learning disabilities. That has to do with individuals, how they take in and learn and remember information. So how they take in, process the information, and then how they output that information. When it comes to working with those with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, there's inattentive, hyperactive, and impulsive type, and you have combined type as well. So inattentive is where one would focus for long periods of time on a topic or on what they're working on, and they might not realize anything else is going on around them. And they can do that for quite a few hours and not even realize that time has gone by. When it comes to Inattentive, that's difficulty with focusing for long periods of time, difficulty with concentrating on what it is that they need to be doing, easily distracted, lack of attention to detail. They find themselves that they're easily frustrated and distracted. With the combined type, that would be the hyperactive and inattentive. So hyperactive or impulsive would be difficulties with sitting, fidgeting a lot.
I like to fidget too. I fidget with rocks.
That's really good. Excellent.
I did something right now. I fidget with rocks right there.
Okay.
Continue on.
Good for you. Thank you. Okay. Rocks are good. Okay. So when we're talking about those with developmental disabilities or intellectual disabilities, that's a group of conditions that are due to mental or physical impairments that arise before adulthood, right around the time of birth, may affect developmental milestones, so difficulty with problem solving in new situations can affect, so in each of these areas I'm actually also talking about I'm talking about executive functions. So executive functions, because it's important to mention that, when we're talking about the different challenges that come up with respect to education and work, particularly work, because that's my main focus. Could be around visual, spatial, which I'll be talking about in a few minutes. Talking about organizational challenges, so difficulties with prioritizing, problem solving, again, in new situations, and organization. Difficulties with memory. So when we're talking about memory, we're talking about long-term memory, we're talking about short-term memory, and we're talking about working memory. So working memory is the ability to hold on to an idea or a thought, being able to work that through and then come up with an answer for it. Okay, so, and then of course also visual spatial challenges. And I'll be talking about that too, and auditory perceptual challenges. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about executive functions. Okay. Oh, and then autism, sorry. Then with autism, that's, so again, it's those who have difficulty in complex neurobehavioral conditions. So this affects one's ability to understand others' emotions or be able to put themselves in other people's positions or situations, and difficulties with nonverbal cues. I could talk for hours about each of these different topics, but I'm mindful of the time, so I'm just trying to keep things down to a minimum. So with auditory processing, that's the way that, so if one were to go for a hearing test, they would come back with no difficulties at all when it comes to hearing. However, it's how the brain takes in that verbal information that they're getting, or that auditory information they're getting, how they process it, and then again, the output that they get from that. Okay? Difficulties filtering out background noises. So for example, as I'm talking to each of you here, if there was something else going on, being able to tune that out to just focus on this on what's being said right now, right, would be a challenge for some folks. Being able to take in large amounts of verbal information would be challenging for a lot of folks with auditory perceptual challenges. So unable to identify different sounds. So for example, if someone's talking about their pet cat, they might mistake that for a pet rat. Right? It's like, oh, well that's weird. What do you mean you taught your cat you taught your rat how to go to the bathroom in the litter box? That's kind of strange. Right. So trouble understanding speech, inability to focus, or, and again, listening for long periods of time. So visual processing, so that was auditory processing. So visual processing has to do with, again, so one could go for a sight test and come back with 20/20 or better vision. So when we're talking about visual perceptual challenges, we're talking about how well one takes in what they're seeing, how the brain processes that, and then again the output that one would get from that. Okay? So some examples around that would be unable to differentiate between similar looking letters, difficulty in reading text. So a couple of examples of that would be, so for example, Cher and Tom Cruise both have dyslexia, which is difficulties with reading.
And what's interesting with that is that you can have 5 people all with a similar challenge of dyslexia. However, that could present differently for each person in terms of how they're seeing that. So one person may see words and letters jumping around on a page. Someone else may see them as being hazy. Someone else may be able to read the words that are there, but not understanding what it is that they're actually reading. And again, so when I'm talking about each of these different challenges, whether it's auditory, perceptual challenges, organizational challenges, again, different people experience those challenges in different ways. And so when it comes to accommodating those individuals with respect to that, the accommodations quite often are different from one person to another with similar challenges. And I'll be talking about that later on as well. Other examples, unable to identify objects, may trip or bump into things. So for example, difficulty gauging how much space one has between themselves and other objects. Henry Winkler, when he was, aging myself now, but with Henry Winkler, when he was starring on the Fonz, as the Fonz on Happy Days, he gave a talk not long ago, and what he was saying was that in between shoots, they would go out and play baseball. And he had a lot of difficulty with that because he couldn't gauge where the baseball was to where his bat was, and so he was always being struck out, poor guy. But yeah, yet again, very successful in all other areas, of his life, right? So it's important not to let these things hold people back from being able to do what it is that they want to do and what they're able to excel at. So now we're going to talk about organizational challenges. So this is difficulty with planning, organizing, prioritizing, keeping track of time, and organizing surroundings. So for example, one who has difficulties with organizing may have difficulty gauging how long a task should take to complete. So they may spend more time or not enough time on a task. Other examples would be pilers versus filers, meaning that okay, if I have a stack of things in front of me, I can see that. For me, so for one, that would be a trigger for, okay, this is what I need to do. Because I can see it, it's a reminder, versus if it's put away somewhere, it's out of sight, out of mind, and it's not that one intentionally, doesn't want to do it, it's just because it's not visually in front of them, they don't remember to get that thing done. Difficulty sequencing tasks. Again, what comes first, second, what do I do third? And following maps, directions, or instructions. So again, one may have difficulties with spatial orientation. One's east, west, north, and south. So the old days when we had the Pearlies, again I'm aging myself here a bit, but when we had the Pearlies and we'd be looking at, okay, I'm lost, where do I need to go? Well, knowing where you are in relation to where you are when you're looking on the map. So if you're not sure if you're traveling north, south, east, or west, trying to find that location is virtually impossible, right? So, and then it's looking at other accommodations for that. So when we're talking about ADHD, so that's the abbreviated term for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, it's about 9 or 10 years ago now that they meld the two together. It used to be attention deficit disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. But not to make things more confusing, they merged the two. So now you have ADHD, inattentive, impulsive, or combined type, right? Which would include the hyperactivity. Okay, so lack of attention to detail, unable to pay attention for an extended period of time, easily distracted, poor concentration, and losing things required for tasks. How it was explained to me once by an individual was, if you can picture, for those of you who drive, or even if you're sitting in the rear or the passenger seat of a car, if you're driving down a road and it's raining, and you have all those raindrops on the windshield, and then the wipers come and they clears it, and then you have that many more droplets again right after, and again the windshield wiper comes to clear it. Picture each of those individual droplets as thoughts or ideas. So what it is that they have the difficulty or the inability to be able to filter out the different thoughts and ideas that we have. So for most folks, you know, you may be thinking right now, okay, what am I going to do for dinner? Oh yeah, okay, I got to stop and pick up the kids on the way home. But for those with ADHD, quite often, you know, they're thinking, okay, kids after, okay, I got to pick up the kids. Did I have lunch? No, I didn't have time for lunch. Okay, what am I going to be doing in 5 minutes? Oh, 5 minutes from now, I got to go do that. Okay, next week I have to go to this other thing. And then there's, oh yeah, then I got to pick up this other thing, right? So they miss a lot of what's happening in the moment. Okay, and again, it's not uncommon for those with organizational challenges or and/or ADHD to forget where they put their house or car keys. Where's my Presto card? So these things can happen a lot also, okay? So I don't want anybody here to be self-diagnosing as I'm talking here, because some of you will be thinking, oh, this happens to me, oh, I experienced that, right? It's the frequency to which these things happen. Okay, so that's what one has to be aware of, okay? And it's only been the last 40 years or so that they've really are more able to really diagnose people with different types of learning challenges. So that's important to mention as well. A lot of individuals have grown up, and as adults now, they're being diagnosed with ADHD for the first time. Okay, and they're getting a lot of aha moments. A lot of it's also happening from their children, because this can also be hereditary. They're seeing their kids going through similar challenges that they went through. And they're going, oh, and then their son or daughter gets diagnosed. It's like, oh, well, maybe, you know, maybe I should get diagnosed as well, and then you know, and have the accommodations put in place for whatever it is that they're trying to get done. And I'll be talking about accommodations as we go through. Types of disclosure. So when we're talking about accommodations for the job, we have to look at, is disclosure necessary on the job? Okay, so if you find that the challenges don't come up at all, there's no need to disclose. If the challenges come up a little bit, but enough where you can come up with different ways of accommodating yourself without having to disclose, or if you can work behind the scenes with the job coach, then again, there's no need to disclose. And I'll let you all in on a secret. So the secret is that we're accommodating ourselves every single day, right? From the moment that we wake up in the morning to the time that we go to bed at night. Okay, so when we're talking about accommodations for folks with different various learning challenges, it's because they're unable to think of the accommodations for themselves, and what ends up happening is you get a lot of aha moments. Oh, why didn't I think of, you know, using Post-it notes, or putting that into my phone, or having that verbal reminder, right? So we get a lot of folks that are like, oh, you know, and they're kind of kicking themselves, thinking, I should have thought of this myself, right? So, but going back to disclosure, so that's what we're looking at when we're talking about disclosure. You know, and then if it's determined that, okay, one should disclose on the job, is it full disclosure? Is it partial disclosure? Or would it be best to have a third person there to disclose on my behalf? So full disclosure is where one discloses the full extent of the learning challenge. If you notice, I'm using the word challenge than disability. To me personally, disability is something that can't be worked with or overcome. It's a permanent challenge, whereas referring to these as challenges, that's what they are. It's a challenge. How do we work with it? Right? It's not about, sort of like a spin-off of what Ingrid was saying earlier, it's not about, you know, is this person smart? It's, how is this person smart? How does this person learn? What are their gifts? What are their talents? And what can we do to work with that to make it work? Right? So full disclosure, again, is disclosing the disability to its full extent, including the type of disability as well as the accommodations that would be needed on the job. Partial disclosure is stating only part of the disability that one would notice coming up on the job, and again, the type of accommodations that would be necessary for that. And then third-party disclosure would be having somebody else again come in and disclose on that person's behalf. Because the thing is that we don't want someone so we're all about empowering people. We think that's very important. where they can advocate for themselves as much as they possibly can. However, depending on the nature of the challenge or challenges that one has and how it's going to impact them on the job, we don't want them to be struggling too much with trying to explain that. So sometimes it's best to have someone come in and help and aid in the disclosure process. Okay. So pros and cons of disclosing, and also when to disclose. So is another big question that we get hit with. So pros of disclosing, so one feels empowered, being able to be oneself, they're being accepted, if they're being accepted into by everybody that they're working with, everyone's understanding, building rapport with your employer, and advocating equality within the workplace. When it comes to cons, the feeling of rejection, trying to connect with the employment support staff or HR to discuss the disclosure, disappointment, ensuring that request of accommodation is reasonable, and that fear of being treated differently. So being able to continue to conducting oneself in that professional manner. So when we're talking about disclosure, it's also important to point out, so should one disclose at the time of a resume and cover letter? Does one disclose at the time of a job interview? Or does one disclose once they've been hired? Right, so those are a couple of other questions that we're sometimes hit with. Without getting too much into it, because again, I'm sensitive for time, I understand time here. So there's pros and cons with each of those, and if anybody has questions with that after, I'd be more than willing to answer those. Okay, so with disclosure, it's important not to just disclose verbally, but also to be able to do it in writing. Doing it in writing, it's a visual for everybody concerned. You have so for the individual who has the learning challenges, and also for the HR department and their immediate manager or supervisor, it's a visual that they can each go back to and look at in case they want to just double check on something. At the same time, it's also considered a legal document. So if one has a formal letter of disclosure in their employment file at work, again, it makes it a lot more difficult for an employer to discriminate against the disability later on, or the learning challenges later on. Sometimes in organizations, you change managers, right? You could change ownership, and so new people coming in, again, it's a good visual for new folks coming in as well, who would then, this person would then be working for as well, or working with as well. So on your sample disclosure letter, you'd have the date, the individual's name, their address, the employer's name, the employer's address, and start off with, dear Mr. or Ms. Jones, and identifying the learning challenge or disability, stating that you're writing to request reasonable workplace accommodations. It's also important to put in there how much you enjoy working for the organization and how much you're really liking your job, and really having that as at the forefront, and then stating what accommodations would be helpful to be able to ensure ensure one's able to continue doing their job to the best and fullest of their ability and meeting or even exceeding expectation. So we'll skip that one. Okay. So what are accommodations? So again, accommodations are adjustments that are made to either the job structure or work environment that helps individuals perform their tasks with ease. So for example, if somebody's easily distracted in a partitioned work environment, maybe the walls could be made a little bit higher on each side of the partition, or having a background noise to like those machines that what's that? Thank you, the white noise machines, right? So those can be also very helpful. It could also be the use of, again, Post-it notes, something as simple as that. Something, again, as simple as having a tape recorder to record certain conversations so one can play that back later on just to be able to rehash what it is that, that was being said earlier. Reading pen, so that's a pen that you would scan across a page and the pen would verbalize to you what it would normally, that you would normally would have to read, right? Extra time for learning new tasks and processing information. The support of a mentor on the job or job coach. The whole meaning of a mentor really, you know, should put itself out of business. I think if people were to be working closely together, people are acting as mentors naturally to each other anyway, right? So, and frequent feedback meetings from one supervisor. Something as simple as being able to just say good morning to their supervisor every morning can help to lessen that stress and anxiety that could otherwise be building up in an individual, right? To lessen those thoughts of, is today the day I get called into the office where they're going to call me out on something that I'm not sure of, right? So that can be helpful. Other things that can be helpful, noise canceling headphones, Dragon Naturally Speaking, and Kurzweil softwares, right? So those are speech to text and text to speech software, right? Those can also be helpful too, depending. Okay. So how do I get the accommodations that I need? So, so again, coming into, for example, our agency, JVS Toronto, you'd meet with an employment counselor and then go through what's known as an intake. If you're accepted, when one's accepted into the program, you'll be working alongside the employment counselor as well as a job coach who would be helping one to look for work and then helping one with accommodations and whatever accommodations that one may need. Sometimes that also involves where the job coach will actually go into the workplace and help the individual, you know, by looking at what their job description is, what does a typical day look like on the job, and being able to put some additional accommodations in place. Because when one's disclosing to an employer, we don't want the employer to feel like they're the ones that have to come up with the accommodations, because quite often they're not, this is the first time that they're hearing and trying to understand what these different types of learning challenges are that I'm explaining about, right? So let alone them now having to try and come up with accommodations on top of that. So having that job coach involved can really make a big difference. And with JVS, we don't charge the employer for coming in to provide accommodations, right? That's a free service that we're able to provide. Okay. So employers and services have a duty to accommodate. So, and as Ingrid is saying, lots of employers do want to accommodate. They simply don't know how to accommodate. Right, so it's about letting them know that we're there to assist with that process, and then that makes things a lot more easier. Okay, everybody's different, everybody's unique, everybody has their own set of strengths and challenges, and it's looking at, again, what are the strengths, what are the challenges, and how can we make those challenges into strengths. So other supports with employment, so digital timers. So again, if somebody has difficulty with where they're hyper-focusing on a task, they can set the timer to go off after half an hour or an hour, which is a reminder, okay, I spent an hour on this task. Now, do I have time to continue with this, or should I now go and jump to another task and come back to this one later? Okay, that can be helpful. That way also, people have, for those who have difficulty with trying to figure out, okay, so what does 15 minutes look like, or what does an hour break look like? So setting that timer for 45 minutes or that hour, so then they get back, so they're able to get back to work on time. Magnifying sheet. So what that will do is make those letters a lot larger than what they seem on the page. So, because again, depending on the learning challenge, if the wording is too small, all the words may sort of blend in with each other, but using that magnifying sheet, that can have the words jump out a lot more. The reading pen was mentioned, a portfolio for organization, graphing paper, again, depending on the type of job that one has, and that digital voice recorder can also be very helpful. So as I was saying, so coming to JVS Toronto, we have a few different programs that will assist individuals depending upon what their challenge is and where the needs are. So we have Project Gold, so that's for those with learning disabilities or ADHD, to better understand their strengths and challenges in order to achieve and retain their employment. Path to Work, that's a program that I'm with, so it's for those. So each of our programs, one has to be at least 18. So in Gold and Path to Work, we work with folks up to the age of 65 potentially. And with Path to Work, it's those with developmental disabilities to better understand the learning style and develop strategies to help them gain and keep meaningful employment. And then we have our ASD, which is our Autism Spectrum Disorder Job Readiness Program. It's for those from 18 to 30 who have been diagnosed on the autism spectrum, including Asperger's syndrome, and are struggling to find or maintain employment. We have a few programs. We have two other programs within our disabilities department. Both of those fall under Developmental Services Ontario. The first one being Developing Work Connections. Again, it's for those 18 and up, so youth and adults with intellectual disabilities who aren't quite ready for Path to Work, so they're not quite ready for paid employment. So that's a stepping stone to get them there. The Youth Community Choices for Success is very similar to Developing Work Connections in that the goal is the same as the Developing Work Connections program. The difference being is that it's for youth with dual diagnosis. So those with mental health coupled with a developmental disability. Both those two programs, they do cooking and baking classes. Once a month they'll go do a group volunteer in the community. So they might go to the Daily Food Bank one month, another month they might go to the Evergreen Brickworks. And once a month they'll do something fun in the community. They might go bowling or catch a movie to learn further social skills in a public setting. Okay. And then we also have person-directed planning, again through Developmental Services Ontario. This is a program to assist those with developmental disabilities to create a meaningful life in their community by identifying their life goals and finding community connections and linking them with services and their supports with the help of their personal directed planning facilitator, their families and other natural supports within their life as well. And that's where we're located. You can see JVS Toronto there just off of Dufferin, just south of Glencairn, so we're pretty central. And that's our contact information at the bottom. We actually also have a booth out with everybody out there. We're about partway down in the middle, so you can always come by and see us and pick up some added information from our booth there as well. So I just want to thank you all very much for giving me the opportunity to talk, and I'm sorry I may have gone over that. I do apologize for that. Thank you.
Hi everybody. My name is Moshumi. I'm an employment advisor with Woodgreen Community Services. Woodgreen Community Services is huge. Like, we have been working for the last 80 years. And I'm not gonna focus on all of our services because we don't have that much time. We will focus on employment services only. So it's gonna be very short. If you have any question, maybe you can discuss about it after our presentation. So under employment services, we have 3 locations. One is at Danforth, 989 Danforth Avenue. Another one is at 1533 Victoria Park. And another one is 1080 Queen Street East. So we have 3 locations. And what we do, we want to help our clients to market their skills, strengths and successes to employers. It doesn't matter what kind of client they are. They can be referrals from OW or ODSP. We try to partner with our clients. Even if they have disabilities, we try to assess them. We try to help them to develop their tools. and then we try to see what kind of needs required to be successful in their job job search efforts. So our goal is to assist our clients to get the best job as soon as possible. Woodgreen Workforce Development is dedicated to helping clients to choose a career in line with their goals, abilities, skills, and training, or in training and education. So if they want to go back to school, or if they want to look for survival jobs, if they want to look for career, doesn't matter. We try to assess them, and then we try to address their needs. So we develop effective job search strategies. We devise solutions to the challenges they face. We provide useful resources, referrals, and career advice. We develop job opportunities for them as per their goals. So we have our own resource and information center. In each site, so we have our computer services. We have our computer training. I'm not gonna go detail about it, but if you go to our website, you can see all of those. So we have a model, job search model, which is 4P model. The first model is job search. Under job search, I'm going to explain it later. Under job search, we have 4P models. I will describe it later. We have job matching, placement, and incentive. So for placement and incentive, we have youth placement program. We have placement program for adults. We have placement programs for students too. So we also have job training and retention program. This one is more or less, it's done by the job developers or recruitment advisors. So this is the 4P model that we are following. So under the first step, we try to prepare our clients. This is the first step of reviewing clients. We need to see like what kind of experiences they have, what kind of background they have, and based on that we try to make a plan, and under this plan we partner with the clients and they have to understand what they are supposed to do. So what kind of tools they are supposed to prepare, what kind of interview they are supposed to face. So it depends on the person, on the client, what kind of client they are, and what kind of jobs they're looking for. So under performance, we see like once they are placed, whether they are performing well or not. So our job developer, sometimes they visit the employers and see how they are performing. So under employment support, we do career assessment. We support with the job search tools, which is resume writing, interview skill, mock interview, job maintenance, this kind of support. And we provide credential assessment support. Sometimes we provide trainings like CPR, first aid training, Smart Serve. We provide food handler certificate. We provide vouchers for Dress for Best or Dress for Success. We provide work boots, uniforms. They just have to give us original receipts for those. We provide support for police clearance. Sometimes we provide TTC tokens for our clients. We provide food vouchers. Sometimes those who doesn't have any SIM card, or if they lost it, then we provide $10 to get it back. As an employment advisor, when we meet with the clients, we try to give them like more than an hour so that we can assess the client properly to see like this 1 hour is really very important because that's where we start. This assessment process has different sections, like my friend here, like JVS, they do the disclosure things. So we also have those kind of steps. We have to follow those steps. So we try to explore like what kind of career they're looking for, what kind of career direction they're supposed to go, and then we make a action plan, short-term and long-term plan, and then we draft it, and we make it like an agreement so that they agree with us that they're going to follow this action plan, and we try to monitor it. And also we try to network for our clients. We give advocacy support for our clients. So under Woodgreen, we have internal referrals, we have external partnership programs. So we have bridging programs like for international professionals. We have a special program for single mothers, those who are looking for jobs or housing. So this is called Homeward Bound program. This is a very successful program for young women. We have a work initiative network program. This is a 4-month employment program for adults with mental health issues. We have youth program, which is called Networks. This program is like for those who are experiencing economic insecurity, and they are identified racialized newcomer LGBTQ community, and also if they have any disability. We have Rites of Passage program, and this one is also for youth in between 13 to 17. This is a West African tradition of helping young people, and this one is to educate young people to self-respect, self-determination, and responsibility to the community. We have mentorship program for internationally trained professionals. We also have volunteer services. We have access to structured psychotherapy program. Recently we have started this program. It's a partnership program with CAMH, and we are providing cognitive behavioral therapy to our clients who are living with mild to moderate anxiety or depression. So we do have a developmental services program at our 815 Danforth Avenue location. We also have a table here. If you are interested to get more information, you can visit our table. Under developmental services, we have support for groups for parents of children with developmental disabilities. We have developmental services for adults, and this program deals with the individuals who are living with developmental disabilities and to access the various community-based services. We have parent outreach program aimed at increasing independence in the home. Under mental health and addiction related services, we have caregiving program, we have counseling program, we have housing program, social work and full circle for older adults seniors program. We have walk-in counseling program. This walk-in counseling program is a single session counseling program which happens only on Tuesday evenings for those who have mental health disabilities. Thank you so much. If you have interest for more information, you can go to our website, which is woodgreen.org. I also have some folders here. If you are interested, you can take one of those. Thank you so much.
I want to thank all our presenters again for sharing their expertise, and we open the floor if people have any questions that you want to direct to the individuals.
Hi everyone, thank you for the presentation. Okay, I'm by myself on disability. This is the disability thing. And my son is also autistic and he's on disability. As a profession, I'm a registered nurse, but I could not work and then I need to recertify my license, and they asked me I have to study, not the whole thing, like a refresher course or something like that. Disability will provide any funding towards it. I can complete my education.
So if you're not the person that's on disability?
No, I am on disability
you're
and
the
my
person.
son too.
So it's mainly just disability-related items. We don't help with education funding.
Okay.
It's more like we tell you, go to OSAP, there are other like...
OSAP doesn't have that kind of program. There's
Yeah.
anything else you guys have?
Not for us, unfortunately. We usually suggest, like I usually suggest going to 311. It's the Toronto resource. It's a really good underused resource that can help. It's call it. It's a free service on your phone, and a lot of times you can ask for specifics that we may not even know of. There's so many resources in Toronto that are underutilized, so it's a really good resource because they've got a database for everything that's going on in Toronto. You can ask the operator, and then they can say, hey, are there anything for my particular case? And they'd be able to direct you to the right number, right kind of area.
Okay. Anything is, and the one more thing I don't know who's going to apply that question to. My son is autistic and he has a problem with focusing. And is there anything available for this kind of children to help, any programs, anything? I know that there's a lot of private services available, but for that I have to pay. Anything? 11. Or I can give you a call or something like that. We can brainstorm that one because I really.
Yeah, okay. So for a lot of our employment programs or pre-employment programs, one has to be at least 18.
Yes, yes, I understand.
Is he in school at the moment?
Yeah, he's in school.
Okay. So sometimes through the TDSP, they'll have they'll have other curricular programs also that you can be able to access.
So then I just call the TDSP and then go from there?
I think that is the best way to do it because he's still like young.
Do you know about the Geneva Center for Autism?
Yeah, I've been involved with them, but whatever the programs they have is very expensive. Okay. And I have that's the problem because we both are on disability and there's money problem. I love to send him there because a lot of good things there, but I really cannot. Yeah, that's the problem. I'm looking for something which funding or a private thing or a private funding or anything like that which helps with this thing. Hi, is this related to disability? Okay, I am enrolled in that tax benefits. Okay, if I'm willing to work, okay, how that helps?
So sorry, say again.
You know how you get the tax benefit?
Yeah, it does. It's exempt, so we don't deduct any of that. That's stuff you can keep.
So then there is no taxes coming out from if I
So
work?
you get a T4 at the end of every single year that you
Okay.
can file, so you can get money back, like GST, not GST, like anybody else who gets money back from the government. You keep that. It's exempt. So we
It's
don't.
exempt because
Yeah,
of, that's
we don't
the
take that.
purpose of having a
Yeah,
this.
that's the reason why we give you your actual T4s at the end of every year.
Okay, another thing is that I'm single right now. I'm not planning to get married. Does this affect my ODSP?
You do have to let us know. It doesn't. So it affects it. Yes, everything that you do affects, anything that you do, most stuff affects your ODSP file. So if you do say plan to get married, he would have to come in, sign the declarations, all the forms that you signed when you came onto the program. We would need all of his information, banking information, birth certificate, health card, and so pretty much he is now on ODSP with you. So he also is responsible for any overpayments, anything that, say if you forget to do something and you end up getting an overpayment, anything that happens is split between the two of you. Even if you end up not being together later on, he's still responsible for anything that happens. You guys are both responsible for anything that happens while he's on the ODSP file with you.
Okay, but he works, then his income is count towards my income.
Income
right?
counts
Because
towards
we're
yours. So
together.
anything that he does counts towards your stuff.
And
So
then
he's
if he
working-
doesn't work or something like that, maybe he's on like anything like, can't find a job or something like that, then the government will support him too or not?
So if he is on ODSP with you and he stops working, it's nothing change. Like if he's working, he obviously has to do his report his earnings. But once he stops working, then it's the same thing. Like he stops working, we would encourage through Ontario Works to go and try and help find him a job again, or to go to school or any other kind of potential program to help out with that kind of stuff.
Okay, one last question. If I sponsor somebody, because I have rheumatoid arthritis, like I'm completely, and then my son is autistic. If I can sponsor my family member, like my mother, can I do that with having an ODSP, or I have to call the immigration people or whatever?
Oh, you said sponsor. So sponsor is a little different. So you can sponsor someone while you're on ODSP, but the implications with that are if it's dollar for dollar that the government would end up, like if they come off it or something happens, you're obviously responsible for any payments that they have given out because it's government money that is going to a sponsored person. They are then also responsible for making sure they're either supporting themselves, getting a job, doing something as well, if you are sponsoring.
I'm allowed to do that, that's right?
You can sponsor someone later on.
Perfect, thank you so much.
Well, thank you everyone for attending, and there are a couple of resources there that were left from the participants, and thank you again.